Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining this BeWell education session. My name is Mariah Bruner and I'm the wellness coordinator serving faculty and staff. Today I'm joined by two guest speakers. I'm really excited to have them. We've got Alicia Landry, Dr. Alicia Landry. She's an assistant professor and dietetic internship director in the Department of Family and Consumer Sciences at UCA. She describes herself as a natural introvert, and she has lots of experience being isolated. And we've got Tiffanie Snyder, who's a part-time faculty member with the Family and Consumer Sciences Department at UCA. She's a mother of 6, and she's excellent at organization and skilled in promoting peace. So I'm excited to have you both. I'm going to hand it off to you, and we can get started.
Okay, thank you, Mariah. So yes, I'm Alicia. Tiffanie is here too. I'm super excited that Tiffanie agreed to work on this with me, and then just the invitation to be able to speak with you guys is awesome, and we're so happy that we get to share some of the stuff that we enjoy doing daily. So we're going to talk to you about tips for healthy eating while isolated at home, and our learning objectives are to identify strategies that create a healthy food environment while we work from home, and recognize the signs of emotional eating, and then establish a plan for mindful and intuitive eating, examine healthy food options, evaluate methods for keeping best practices at mealtime for a peaceful environment, and then principles of food safety we'll wrap up with. So this is kind of a roadmap for our presentation, and Tiffany's going to start us off with our environment for success.
Thank you so much again for asking me to be here, and it's great to see some familiar faces out there. If I've never met you, then it's my pleasure to officially meet you. Happy first or 61st day of quarantine. I think I've been counting since the day they kind of shut down the university there. But to begin, I wanted to tell you a story about something that actually happened to me the week of the quarantine. And it's been something that's been kind of instrumental for me. So I was driving down, I was trying to get to work, and they're doing road construction out by my house, and I came to a detour sign. And this is really out of character for me, I promise, but I just knew I had all these things in the background going on in my mind. I had meetings to get to. I had groceries I was thinking about buying. I was thinking about work, and I was thinking about softball and baseball and everything else that was going on. And I just decided I did not have time to deal with that detour. So I drove through the detour sign and thought, oh, it's new, maybe there won't be any trucks, but there were trucks. And so I did have to turn my car back around, and I got back to the back of the detour sign, and I happened to look up, and on the back, I saw something that I thought is probably actually considered a bad word in academia, but it said in big black print, "Welcome back, stupid." Welcome back, stupid. And I started thinking about that, and I'm kind of a person that's always looking for signs, and this was a literal sign kind of directing me into this quarantine. And I started thinking about my nutrition students and my nutrition classes, and just me stuck in this quarantine with this house with this pantry and kids. And I thought, how often do I feel like this when I walk into the pantry? How often do I feel like with nutrition that I try to do something and then I get faced with this big black sign? And so I thought about the refrigerator, how I open the refrigerator, and how I go to the grocery store and I'm reading labels, and sometimes that sign feels like it's staring at me in the face. So that is actually my personal goal with this presentation, is to help us all get rid of that sign in our houses, so that we can have an environment that's going to be conducive to healthy eating. So that's where we're going to start today, is creating an environment for success in our home. And one of the things that I truly believe in is that out of control eating truly does spiral from an out of control environment. So step one in eating healthy is going to be to try to minimize the chaos and the clutter that's going on in the background in our home. And so just little things like getting up early and getting your housework started, tending to the dishes, creating the order in your home can be really beneficial. Having a set time, for me, I like to even just exercise right before work, because it's not even so much about the exercise benefits as it is for me just marking it off my to-do list and being done with it for the day, so that that's not clouding up my background. And then also you get the benefits from the exercise. And we know that exercise is actually very powerful when it comes to stress relief. It's more powerful, the endorphins that are released are more powerful than morphine. And so that can be really beneficial to being alert and productive throughout the day. And at minimum, if anything, just putting on your tennis shoes, right? So that, I mean, we're sitting in Zoom sessions and have our suits on and hopefully our tennis shoes. And that way, if we have 5 minutes, we can just jump up and move for a little bit. If you have 5 minutes to walk a lap around your home, or actually, I know it sounds silly, but doing jumping jacks or push-ups or taking a lap around your block as you have a few minutes throughout the day can just help us to stay more alert and more productive. And then when the day is done, give yourself that set time to be off work. And then thinking about joining up those challenges with your friends. The My Health Check 360 app is a great tool for just engaging with others and challenging ourselves to be active in the night hours as well. So creating an environment for success. So we can move to the next slide, Alicia. Thank you. Really does start with being at home and thinking about, again, getting rid of the clutter. So one of the things to think about with this quarantine is that you really truly cannot eat foods that you do not bring into your house. And I think that's really an interesting thing to think about. We all may want donuts, but if we don't buy the donuts, we can't eat them. So I really love that there's a lot of control that can be exercised just when making our grocery list and actually purchasing the foods that we're bringing into our homes. Also, it's okay to say both yes and no at times. So remember that we can say yes to healthy eating. We can even say yes to that donut at times. And we can also say no to the donut most of the time. And so always thinking in terms of what do you do most of the time. And that donut's not the enemy. Okay? It's just thinking about that we want to get the most bang for our buck out of our nutrients. So choosing the foods that are going to provide the most health benefits, and I like to think of even for the least amount of calories, right? The most health benefits most of the time. That's going to help us to feel full, to not indulge in those treats all the time. Okay. All right. Okay, this is the biggest game changer I can probably offer, and I know it's a little elementary in certain terms, but think about, why are we eating? And are we eating for hunger purposes alone? And I cannot emphasize that this can truly be a life-altering relationship with food if we can really think about, why are we eating? And I always ask my students if they're hungry when they come into class, and then I say, well, would you eat if I bring in tables full of brownies and pizza? And of course they scream, yes, we'll eat. And I say, why? And they say, because it's free and it's here, right? So there are a lot of other reasons that we eat besides for hunger purposes alone. And we know that when we go to a movie that we're probably gonna get some popcorn, or when we go to a wedding that we're looking forward to the cake. So kind of getting back to the basics with how we approach food can be very instrumental. And I always think about how babies are born with this innate ability to determine when they are hungry, and then they stop. They'll literally push the food away when they're full and they're completely done with their meal. And then we're conditioned through life and through the associations that we start getting or attaining with food. We start realizing that food can be a source of a punishment, right? Or a reward. We start eating at certain times of the day. Perhaps we have behaviors like just maybe going in and grabbing a snack in between our Zoom sessions. Or perhaps we're used to bringing in a very caloric beverage to our desk every single day, because that's just what we do as a creature of habit. So again, getting back to the basics, thinking about why are we eating, approaching food in sort of a new way. And if you've never thought about those things, keeping a journal or using one of the apps could be really beneficial, but just simply asking yourself, why are you eating? All right. And then also when we do start to eat, think about mindfully eating instead of mindlessly eating. And what I mean by that is, I know for me, sometimes while I'm cooking, I have a temptation just to kind of mindlessly eat, sort of munch or graze while I'm cooking. Or like we mentioned, maybe we bring our food to our desk and we're eating, but we're not even paying attention to what we're eating. So if we can sit down to the table and focus on our food and use those portioned out, divided out plates even to help us portion, then we'll be less likely to hopefully overconsume on calories. Okay? When we sit down to the table to eat, then it's also important to think about perhaps stopping before we're actually full. It does take about 20 minutes for your body to tell your brain that you're full. So I know a lot of times we don't even take 20 minutes to eat a complete meal. So sometimes what I'll try to do is just, like I'll think I want to have a dessert at the end of the meal, and I'll make myself just wait, or I will get up and clean up dinner, and then maybe go for a walk, and then think about having the dessert that I wanted later if I'm still hungry for it. And I'm amazed how many times that feeling of hunger will actually subside if I'll just give myself a little bit of time. And a benefit to that is also that if you can sort of spread those calories out, perhaps you just, instead of having the 200 calories that you would have had at the end of your meal, you have it a little bit later, and then you don't have a snack later in the day. So just spreading your calories out throughout the day can be helpful as well. All right. Okay, drinks. Let's talk about drinks. Staying hydrated is super important. I actually had a student one semester that said, he came back and said, I didn't do anything you told me to do, except one thing. He said, I took one baby step piece of advice, and he said, I quit drinking sodas. And he said, I've lost 30 pounds. And that's always stuck with me, because I thought that one little change is all he did. And it's hopefully been something it's benefited him so much. So think about, first of all, what we are drinking. I like to eat my calories rather than drink them. That's just a personal preference. Not everybody may feel that way. There's nothing wrong with orange juice or apple juice or milk. They're very nutritionally, they have a lot of good nutrition components and healthy components. But for me, I would rather have the apple than the juice, because it feels more like a food or a snack than just drinking it. So thinking about the empty calories that are in your drinks, it's easy to overconsume and have 500 extra calories in a Coke throughout the day. See where I'm fine. And so if we can cut that out, that's a pound per week, 500 calories a day. So that can be a really big change. Also, a lot of times we will mistake hunger for thirst. So the chemical composition of foods is 95% water. And a lot of times at the end of the day, we're feeling hungry. We go in and we kind of feel like we have those nighttime munchies. And if we'll just go in and drink some water, then a lot of times that feeling of hunger will subside. So thirst is actually an indicator of dehydration. You're already 1% to 2% dehydrated by the time you actually feel thirsty. So something to bear in mind. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the actual healthy eating. It is a process of baby steps. So think about one thing that we talk about today and make that your goal for this next week, and then move on to something else. And then also bear in mind the importance of planning. So when you think about shopping and what you are going to bring into your home, be sure and create a good grocery list, meal plan. Think about which meals you do want to have and the ingredients that are required for those. Okay? And when I know most of us are not actually going to the grocery store right now. So it does make it very easy to stick to that list because you're actually having to buy everything online. But if you are going to the grocery store, a good little rule of thumb is to stick to the perimeter of the grocery store. Trying to make half of your grocery cart fruits and vegetables is really important. And I always try to do kind of a grocery cart check when I leave and think, what if I run into my students? What would they think about my cart, you know? So replacing one food that you typically think of with a fruit or vegetable can be very beneficial, okay? All right, and then when it comes to your carbohydrate sources, thinking about combining them with protein, fat, and fiber, that's going to promote satiety, help you to feel more full for longer periods of time, okay? And then limiting your box, thinking outside the box literally when it comes to purchasing your grocery items. Again, thinking the perimeter of the grocery store, limiting items that have a long, lengthy list of ingredients. Typically, the fewer the ingredients, the better. And trying again to get those good sources of nutrients, okay? Okay, and the last thing I'm going to suggest is think about your batch cooking techniques. So this is really an important time saver for me is to think about ways I can create home cooked meals in a very limited amount of time. So I like to cook up about 10 to 15 pounds of a lean ground meat, like ground beef or ground turkey, and then bell peppers and onions, season that up, put it in Ziploc bags. I pull it out, 1 pound portions, and I can just heat it up and toss it in and make chilies and all kinds of vegetable soups and protein muffins and whatever. So it's been a really big deal for me to be able to do that. Okay. All right, so one small baby step at a time, one giant leap for you, your family, your children, and their children. And I hope that we can get rid of that nasty old ugly detour, back of the detour sign in each of your homes. So I'm going to pass it to Dr. Landry.
Thanks, Tiffany. And is this your baby?
Yes, that's the baby. He's
Yes.
one.
So super cute, super exciting. Okay, so we're going to go through these pretty quickly. Stay active. I know that y'all have had other sessions about activity, and like Tiffany said at the beginning, it's so important. But just the way that it relates to nutrition is important too, because activity can actually stimulate your appetite, and hopefully your appetite is for those healthier foods that pack a nutrient punch. But, think about grabbing, like just getting up and to grab water from the kitchen, just getting up and taking those steps is important. Sleep, again, this is something that I know that y'all have talked about before in BeWell sessions. And when you talk about wellness, this is just one of those components is sleep. And so as far as nutrition goes, we want to make sure that alcohol intake is limited, because even though alcohol can sometimes make you feel sleepy, it actually makes you not sleep as well. You're much more restless after consuming alcohol. And then caffeine before bedtime. So kind of as I age, I've realized that my caffeine tolerance has to end about 2 p.m. or else I'm up a lot of the night, just kind of pacing, or my mind won't stop, it won't slow down. And I can usually attribute that to some of the caffeine that I've had. And so I really try to avoid that in the afternoon and throughout the evening. So food safety is where I really want to spend some time. I know that this has been something that people have talked about a lot with quarantine. Just the general food safety rules that we want to review. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap, antibacterial soap, before and after preparing or eating food. Wash your fruits and vegetables before you eat them. Don't use soap or bleach or anything on your fruits or vegetables though, because a lot of times those chemicals that are in the soap or the bleach won't come off of the fruit or vegetable, and you don't want to ingest that. But you can rub and scrub really good, or use like a fruit spray that is healthy. Make sure that you're disinfecting surfaces and objects before and after you use them. So knives, countertops, cutting boards. We want to make sure you keep your raw and your cooked foods separate, along with using different utensils and cutting boards for your raw foods and your cooked foods. Even if a raw food is like lettuce, you don't want to chop lettuce on the same cutting board without sanitizing it that you chopped like chicken, or even if it's cooked chicken, you just want to be super careful with that. And then make sure that you cook and reheat foods to adequate temperatures. And you can just Google food safety temperatures and it'll take you right to the USDA Department of Agriculture website where it lists out different safe cooking temperatures. And generally for anything that's ground, you want to get it at least to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So particularly important for this time is things that you can have in your house that may not always be there, but are good staples. Eggs. So even if you can't find eggs in the grocery store, which I think is getting a little bit better now, but they have pasteurized eggs that are in cartons, like egg beaters. Those are great options and usually have less cholesterol in those. And then there's also in the baking section, you can find egg replacers. And you can also use, like in the substitutions, things like applesauce, avocado, those things to replace some of the egg and the fat if you're baking. And with milk, if you're going for an extended period of time without being in a grocery store or having availability to get groceries, you can use dry milk, evaporated milk, or the shelf-stable milk that's a higher temperature processing. You can get low-fat and fat-free versions of all of those. And if you don't like those options, other options for milk that are less perishable are things like almond milk, soy milk, or rice milk. And you can get those flavored, unflavored, and reduced fat. And then with your baking supplies, you want to look for flour, baking soda, baking powder, yeast, and sugar just to keep on hand. And like I said before, you can buy applesauce, avocados, bananas, yogurt, sour cream, those types of things, and freeze them so that when you do get ready to use it in baking or cooking, that you have those available. So how can you stay safe while grocery shopping? I think the biggest thing is to wash your hands constantly, and you want to definitely keep your distance from people, and make sure that you are wearing appropriate masks or gloves if you're being asked to do those, and what's comfortable for you. When you bring your groceries home, you should put put everything in one place, and the bags in one place, take all of your food out and put it in a different place, and then throw your bags away, and then disinfect the surface where the bags were. It's not what they're finding, and what the FDA is saying is that they're not so concerned about actual food packaging having virus components on it or making people ill. Same with fresh fruits and vegetables. It hasn't been known to be a transmitter of COVID-19, but the precaution should be more about the outside packaging of the bags and where they sat or who touched those bags. And then, like always, when you're preparing food, you need to wash your hands for 20 seconds before you start preparing it, after you prepare, before you eat, and then after you eat. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, and we are available for questions. I think Mariah has a slide she wants to put up, so I'm going to stop the share, but I do want to just say thank you again to Tiffanie. Fantastic job, and she was really my inspiration for wanting to be so involved in this, because she has that, I saw her Facebook page where she has her corn tips. So this creative work all goes to her. So kudos to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very informative and very good reminders. I am going to share my screen really quickly because I want to make sure everybody knows how to claim their lifestyle reward points for this session. I'm hoping this comes up. And while I'm doing that, please go ahead and submit any questions you have using the chat feature. We did have a lot of compliments. It says, thanks, good information. Hold on, let me see if I can get my PowerPoint going. There's always the struggle. Here we go. So I'm just gonna give a few moments to see if there's any questions, comments. Okay, I'm not seeing anything come through. I'm gonna stick around for a few moments after we stop the recording, so if anything comes to mind, you can do that. But right now, Oh, wait, let's see. Nope, just another compliment. Thank you, Melanie says, yes, great information and lots of nuggets to incorporate. I agree. Okay, so to claim 5 lifestyle rewards for this session, if you've done this before, you know this already, but go ahead and shoot me an email at ucabewell@uca.edu, or you can use my personal work email, mbruner1, whatever comes up is fine. Subject line, tips for healthy eating. I'll shoot you back a certificate of attendance. I'll send you a copy of these slides. And then I'll also send you a link to a very short session evaluation. It only takes a minute to complete. It just gives us valuable feedback. And also we ask about topics that you might be interested in future sessions. So you can go ahead and submit those comments. And then just so you have it, this is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns about BeWell. Head over to our BeWell website. It's got lots of valuable information. And we're on Facebook and Twitter as well. Let me check the chat one more time before I stop the recording. Just another compliment. It said, thank you. This was a good reminder of going back to the basics. All right, I'm going to stop my recording.